Ethan walked slowly along the narrow corridor of the hydroponics garden. The air smelled faintly of wet soil and fresh vegetation, a rare calm in the bustling space colony on the edge of explored space. The soft hum of water pumps and distant chatter from other colonists made him feel almost peaceful. But he was not here to relax. Something had drawn him to this part of the colony, a faint, elusive energy he could not explain. It was unusual for anyone to be here at this hour, not humans, and certainly not aliens. The colony had many species, but most kept to their own areas. Yet today, something felt different. As he walked past rows of glowing plants, Ethan sensed movement out of the corner of his eye. He froze. A figure emerged from the shadows between two tall bioluminescent ferns. She was small, almost delicate. But there was a sharpness in the way she moved. Her skin glimmered faintly, shifting colors with her heartbeat. Her hair, silver with streaks of violet, fell loosely around her shoulders. Ethan had never seen anyone like her before. "Hello," he said gently, not wanting to startle her. The alien girl's large eyes widened, and she took a step back. Her body language screamed caution. She was clearly not used to humans approaching her, especially not without fear or hostility. "I'm not here to hurt you," Ethan continued, keeping his hands visible and relaxed. I felt something unusual, and I think it's you." The girl stiffened, and her glowing patterns flickered faster. Her instinct was to flee, but curiosity held her in place. She studied him carefully. Ethan's reputation as an explorer who uncovered hidden truths must have reached her, though she had not expected to encounter him personally. I don't know what you mean," she whispered, her voice melodic but tense. Ethan stepped closer, slow and measured, careful not to frighten her. "I know your secret," he said softly. The words slipped out naturally, but their weight was heavy in the silent garden. The girl gasped and took another step back. Her glowing patterns shifted violently, reflecting panic and fear. "No," she said, shaking her head. You cannot know." Ethan stopped and raised his hands again. "I don't mean to expose you. I just want to understand." Her eyes darted around the garden as if she could find an escape route in the shadows. She seemed torn between trust and self-preservation. Slowly, Ethan noticed faint scars along her wrist and shoulder, partially hidden beneath the shimmer of her skin. They were not old, and they did not look accidental. They were a story, one she did not want to tell. I have to go," she said, her voice trembling. Before Ethan could respond, she darted behind a row of plants and vanished. Ethan exhaled slowly. He had expected this reaction, though it did not make it easier. He knew her secret could be dangerous, not for her, but for the colony. Yet something in her presence made him feel that he had to help, not exploit. He followed her, moving quietly, careful not to disturb the fragile ecosystem around them. The shadows of the garden were deeper than he had anticipated. Between the glowing plants, he glimpsed her again, just far enough away to remain hidden. She paused, listening, and for a moment she seemed to consider turning back. Ethan stepped into a patch of light, careful to show he meant no harm. "Please," he said softly, "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to help." The alien girl's eyes softened, if only slightly, but her posture remained defensive. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You cannot know what you are asking for." Ethan tilted his head, trying to read her. "Then teach me," he said. "Tell me why you are hiding. Let me see it from your side." There was silence for a long moment. The hum of water pumps and the faint sound of colonists' voices in the distance were the only background noises. Then, carefully, she emerged from the shadows, just enough to be visible. Her glowing skin pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, brighter than before, almost like a warning. "I cannot," she said quietly. "If they find out, they will come for me." Ethan frowned. "Who will come for you?" She shook her head. "You don't understand our laws, our fears. You cannot." Ethan took a slow step closer, keeping his hands out and open. "Maybe not yet, but I want to." The girl's glowing patterns flared and she stiffened again. "You must leave now," she warned. "Do not follow me further." Ethan paused. He could see the tension in every muscle of her body, the panic in her eyes. But there was something else, too, something hidden beneath fear. He sensed a longing for connection, for someone to know her truth. He also sensed the weight of that secret. Whatever it was, it had forced her to hide her entire life. "I won't expose you," Ethan promised. "I only want to understand." "That's all." Her gaze lingered on him for a long moment. Then she sighed almost imperceptibly and gestured for him to follow, but not too closely. "Fine," she said softly, "but only for a short time. And you must promise you cannot tell anyone else." Ethan nodded. "I promise." They moved carefully through the garden, the girl leading the way. Her footsteps were silent, and every so often she glanced over her shoulder, making sure he kept his distance. Ethan watched her intently. She was graceful, cautious, but there was a strength in her movements, a resilience that belied her fragile appearance. As they walked, Ethan noticed more details about her. Her eyes were a deep shade of amethyst, unusual even for her species. Her hands were delicate but strong, and her presence seemed to shift the energy around her, almost like the plants responded to her. He realized that her secret might be connected not just to her past, but to something much larger, something that could change how humans and aliens interacted in the colony. Finally, they reached a secluded area behind a wall of climbing vines. It was a hidden alcove, shielded from view, bathed in the soft glow of bioluminescent flowers. The girl stopped and turned to face him fully. "This is safe. For now," she said. "But I cannot stay here long. They are watching." Ethan studied her carefully. "Who is watching?" "The Council, the factions, anyone who believes my kind is dangerous," she replied. "They do not understand. They only see what they fear." Ethan nodded slowly. He had encountered fear before, but this was different. This was a fear that could shape lives, that could force someone to hide their very identity. "Then let me help you," he said quietly. Her eyes narrowed. "Help me? How can you help me? You are human. You cannot possibly understand what it means to be like me." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe not yet, but I can try, and I can choose to be on your side." For a moment, her defenses seemed to waver. Then she looked down, her glowing patterns dimming slightly. "You do not know what you are promising," she said softly. "I do," Ethan replied, "and I am willing to take that risk." The alien girl studied him carefully, then slowly extended her hand, a gesture of tentative trust. Ethan reached out and took it gently. Her skin was warm and tinged with the faint shimmer of her bioluminescent patterns. He felt a subtle energy pass between them, not dangerous, but powerful in a way he could not explain. "My name is Lyra," she said quietly, "and if you betray me, I will disappear, and you will never find me again." "I understand," Ethan said, "and I won't betray you." They stayed like that for a few moments, hands clasped, exchanging silent understanding. Outside the alcove, the colony continued its daily rhythm, unaware that two unlikely allies had just begun a delicate dance of trust. Ethan knew that uncovering Lyra's secret would not be easy. It would take patience, understanding, and courage, and whatever he learned, he would have to protect it, not just from others, but sometimes even from himself. The air in the garden felt heavier now, charged with a sense of anticipation. Ethan could feel that this encounter was just the beginning. Lyra had secrets that could change the colony, and he was determined to understand them fully. Finally, Lyra withdrew her hand. "You must leave soon," she warned. "Even here they can see you if you linger too long." Ethan nodded. "I will return. I need to know more about you, about your world, about what they fear." Lyra studied him one last time, her eyes searching for any sign of deception. Then she nodded, a small, almost imperceptible gesture. "Very well. But remember, one wrong move, and I vanish." Ethan watched as she melted into the shadows once more, her glowing patterns fading into the darkness. He stood there for a moment, absorbing what had just happened. He had met something extraordinary, something beyond the limits of his understanding, and yet he felt an undeniable connection. As he left the hydroponics garden and returned to the main colony, Ethan could not shake the feeling that his life, and perhaps the fate of the colony, had just changed forever. He knew one thing for certain. He had to find Lyra again, no matter the danger, no matter the obstacles. The secret she carried was more than just her own. It was a key to understanding a future that neither humans nor aliens had yet imagined. And Ethan was ready to face whatever came next. Ethan could not sleep that night. He lay in his small quarters aboard the colony, staring at the ceiling as thoughts of Lyra raced through his mind. The encounter in the hydroponics garden had left him both fascinated and concerned. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, not just because of her glowing skin or unusual appearance, but because of the weight she carried. Something about her presence suggested that the secret she guarded was not only personal, it could change the way humans and aliens saw each other. The next morning, Ethan returned to the hydroponics garden. He moved cautiously, aware that Lyra's warning about being watched was real. He glanced around, scanning every shadow, every corner where someone, or something, might be hiding. The faint hum of the water pumps was the only sound. The garden was empty, but the energy he had felt yesterday lingered, subtle, yet insistent. He waited near the alcove where she had disappeared. Minutes passed, then half an hour. Just as he was beginning to worry that he had come too soon, a faint shimmer in the shadows caught his eye. He recognized the shifting glow immediately. Lyra was returning. She emerged slowly, her eyes wary. Her glowing patterns pulsed gently, not in fear but in caution. Ethan raised his hands in greeting. "I didn't mean to rush you," he said softly. "I only wanted to be here when you returned." Lyra's gaze narrowed. "You have been thinking about me all night," she said. "Do not pretend you are calm." "I won't pretend," Ethan admitted. "I was thinking about how to help you, how to understand you better." She studied him carefully, as if trying to read his true intentions. After a long pause, she stepped closer, but kept a distance that suggested both trust and self-protection. "Very few have ever tried to understand me," she said quietly. "Most either fear me or want to control me." Ethan nodded. "I want neither. I only want to know the truth. Please, tell me your secret." Her gaze shifted downward, and her glowing patterns dimmed slightly. The motion suggested hesitation, but also a willingness to share something deeply personal. "You may regret knowing," she whispered. "I am willing to take that risk," Ethan said firmly. Lyra exhaled and began to speak, her voice trembling at first, then growing steadier as she recounted her story. "I am different," she said. "Not fully alien, not fully human. I am a hybrid, born from two worlds that do not fully accept me. My mother was human, my father from my species. When I was very young, those who feared hybrids hunted my family. I lost them. All of them." Ethan listened silently, feeling a mix of awe and sadness. He had known there was danger in her past, but the reality of it was far more severe than he had imagined. The colony was built on fragile alliances between species. But fear and prejudice ran deep. A hybrid like Lyra could easily become a target. "I have lived in hiding ever since," Lyra continued, her glowing patterns flickering with emotion. "I cannot show my true abilities in public. If anyone discovers the extent of what I can do, they would try to use me or destroy me. I have learned to hide, to disappear, to survive. And until now, I have succeeded." Ethan felt a surge of respect. Surviving under such conditions required intelligence, caution, and bravery. He could see why she had been so guarded, yet he also knew that hiding forever was no solution. "You don't have to face this alone," he said gently. "I can help you, if you let me." Lyra hesitated. "Help me? How? You do not understand the dangers. You do not understand what it means to be what I am." "Maybe not yet," Ethan admitted. "But I want to understand, and I want to help you navigate it safely. You don't have to fight them alone." The alien girl looked at him, her eyes searching for deception, for weakness, for any hint that he might betray her. She found none. Slowly, she nodded. Perhaps you can help," she said, "but it will not be easy. I have made enemies I cannot see, and they will strike without warning. You must be careful." "I will be careful," Ethan promised. "But I need to know more. About your abilities, about what they fear, about how to keep you safe." Her patterns flickered again, this time with a mixture of caution and relief. "Very well," she said. "I will show you. But you must promise to keep it secret. If anyone discovers what I can do, even you, if you are careless, could be in danger." "I promise," Ethan said. Lyra led him to a hidden chamber beneath the garden, accessible only through a narrow tunnel covered by thick vines. The air here was warmer, heavier, charged with an energy that made Ethan's skin tingle. He realized that Lyra was not just hiding herself. She was hiding a power that radiated through her surroundings. She stepped forward, closing her eyes briefly. Her glowing patterns brightened, spreading across her arms, her torso, and her face. Ethan could see faint shapes forming in the air around her, like threads of light moving and twisting with her emotions. He was mesmerized. "I can sense energy," Lyra explained. "Not just life around me, but the forces that bind it. I can influence them, subtly at first, then more directly as I gain control. I do not use it to harm, but others, they fear it. They see potential for destruction and chaos, not understanding that I can choose to control it responsibly." Ethan stepped closer, careful not to startle her. This is incredible," he said. "You could help the colony in ways no one has imagined. Healing, protection, even preventing disasters." Lyra shook her head. "It is not that simple. To use my abilities openly would draw attention, and not all attention is good. Some see hybrids as threats, others see us as tools. I have seen what greed and fear can do, and I will not allow myself to be used or hunted." Ethan nodded, understanding her caution. "Then we work carefully, slowly. I will help you train, help you control it. We will find a way to keep you safe and help others understand, without putting you in danger." For the first time since Ethan had met her, Lyra smiled faintly. It was small, almost shy, but there was relief in it. Perhaps there is hope," she said. "But we must be careful. The colony is not as peaceful as it seems. There are factions who would harm me if they knew the truth. They do not understand. They fear." Ethan reached out and touched her arm gently. "We will face them together. I will not abandon you. You do not have to hide forever." They spent hours talking, Ethan asking questions, Lyra explaining as much as she could without revealing vulnerabilities that could be exploited. He learned about her family, her childhood, and the careful measures she had taken to survive. He realized how lonely her life had been, constantly moving, hiding, blending in, and never trusting anyone fully. As the sun began to set over the colony, casting long shadows across the hydroponics garden, Lyra led Ethan back toward the surface. Her glowing patterns dimmed once more, returning to the subtle shimmer she maintained in public. "You must leave now," she said softly. "Even in these hidden areas, I am not completely safe. They could discover us if we linger." Ethan nodded. "I will leave, but I will return. Tomorrow, the day after, as long as you allow me. I want to help you." Lyra studied him for a moment, her eyes searching. Then she nodded. "Very well. But remember, secrecy above all. If anyone finds out what you know, it could endanger both of us." Ethan left the garden quietly, his mind alive with thoughts of Lyra and the revelation she had shared. He understood now why she had been so wary, why she had backed away when he first mentioned knowing her secret. Her life had been a careful balance between survival and isolation, and he had just stepped into it. As he walked through the colony streets, he noticed the subtle tension among different species. Humans, aliens, and hybrids lived side by side, but fear and mistrust lingered beneath the surface. He realized that Lyra's abilities, while extraordinary, could also be the key to bridging those divides, but only if handled with care. Back in his quarters, Ethan reviewed everything he had learned. Lyra's hybrid nature, her abilities, and the danger she faced were not just a personal secret. They were a reflection of the colony itself. Fear could divide, but understanding could unite, and he was determined to be part of the solution. The night passed slowly, Ethan's mind racing with possibilities. How could he protect Lyra without drawing attention? How could he help her train and control her abilities? And most importantly, how could he earn her trust fully so that she could face the colony openly, without fear? He knew the answers would not come easily. There would be obstacles, danger, and perhaps even betrayal. But he was willing to face them. For the first time in a long while, he felt purpose and clarity. Lyra's secret was no longer hers alone. He had shared it, and with that sharing came responsibility. The following days were filled with cautious planning. Ethan and Lyra met in hidden places, practicing small demonstrations of her abilities, testing control and precision. Ethan learned to read her cues, to understand the subtle shifts in her energy that indicated fear or readiness. In turn, Lyra began to trust him more, showing him aspects of her life she had never shared with anyone else. Through these sessions, Ethan discovered the depth of Lyra's resilience. She had survived alone for years, hiding from predators, avoiding detection, and maintaining control over powers that could easily overwhelm her. Her bravery impressed him, but more than that, it inspired him. He realized that humanity's strength was not just in technology or numbers, but in courage, empathy, and the willingness to protect those in need. For Lyra, Ethan's presence was a revelation. She had learned to trust no one, to rely only on herself, yet here was someone willing to step into her world and understand it fully. The bond that grew between them was not just friendship. It was a mutual recognition of strength, vulnerability, and shared purpose. As Part 2 came to a close, the colony continued unaware of the quiet alliance forming in the shadows. Lyra's secret was no longer fully hidden, but in the hands of someone she could trust. And Ethan knew that the challenges ahead would test both of them, demanding courage, wisdom, and the unyielding hope that understanding could overcome fear. Ethan had learned to move quietly, almost like a shadow, following the faint glow that marked Lyra's path. She led him through narrow alleys and hidden tunnels beneath the colony, places few humans had ever ventured. Ethan was amazed at how she navigated the complex network of passages. Every step she took seemed effortless, precise and cautious, as if the walls themselves guided her movements. "I know this colony well," Lyra said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've spent years hiding in places most people do not even think exist. It is easier to stay unseen than to confront those who hunt me." Ethan nodded. "It's incredible. You know every corner, every hiding place." She glanced at him, her eyes serious. "And I must teach you as well. If we are to move safely, you must understand how to disappear when necessary. You cannot rely only on your technology." Ethan listened carefully, understanding the gravity of her words. Danger was always present. The factions that feared hybrids were watching, waiting for the smallest mistake, and one slip could lead to disaster. He had thought that knowing her secret was risky. Now he realized that simply being near her put him in danger as well. They moved deeper into the tunnels, and Ethan noticed subtle changes in the air. The faint hum of energy grew stronger, almost like a pulse. Lyra's glowing patterns brightened, and he realized she was sensing something ahead. "Something is near," she said quietly. "Be ready to move." Ethan adjusted the small device on his wrist, a scanner that could detect heat signatures. It picked up faint traces ahead, multiple beings moving with precision. Lyra's eyes narrowed, and she guided him toward a side passage. They crouched behind a wall of reinforced metal, listening. "They are here," she whispered. "The hunters. They are looking for me, and they will not stop until they find me." Ethan's heart raced. He had known danger was possible, but seeing it so close was different. "What do they want from you?" he asked. "They fear what I am," Lyra replied. "Hybrids are rare, powerful, and unpredictable. They see me as a threat to the order of the colony. Some want to control me, others want to eliminate me, and they will not question why or how. They only act on fear." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we'll make sure they don't find you. I won't let them." Lyra studied him for a moment. "You are brave," she said softly, almost admiringly. "But bravery alone will not protect you. You must think carefully, act quickly, and trust your instincts. Are you ready?" "I am ready," Ethan replied firmly. For the next few hours, they moved through hidden paths, avoiding main roads and surveillance points. Lyra demonstrated subtle ways to mask their presence, blending shadows and sound. Ethan tried to mimic her techniques, realizing that human training was not enough. He had to adapt to her unique perception of the world. As night fell, they reached a hidden sanctuary deep beneath the colony, a place Lyra had discovered long ago but rarely visited. The room was filled with faint glowing crystals embedded in the walls, casting soft light across the floor. It smelled of damp stone and minerals, a comforting, earthy scent. "This is safe, at least for now," Lyra said, letting her guard down slightly. "Here, I can rest and you can learn more about what I can do. But remember, safety is temporary. We cannot stay long." Ethan looked around in awe. "It's amazing. You found a place where you can truly be yourself." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but even here, I must be careful. Hunters may eventually discover this location, and then we must move again. Survival is a constant cycle, but it is worth it to keep going. It is worth it to keep trying." Over the next several days, Ethan trained with Lyra, learning how to recognize energy shifts and subtle movements that could indicate danger. He learned to move quietly, sense presence without seeing it, and understand the faint signals in the environment that Lyra responded to instinctively. Lyra also taught him about her abilities. She could sense emotions, not just in herself, but in others nearby, even across walls or barriers. She could subtly influence energy fields, affecting objects or systems in minor ways. It was not magic, Ethan realized, but a natural extension of her hybrid nature, a combination of human intuition and alien perception. "This is why they fear me," she explained one evening. "Even small actions can appear extraordinary or dangerous to those who do not understand. They do not see that I control my powers responsibly. They only see what they fear." Ethan nodded. "Then we will show them the truth, carefully, one step at a time. No one can understand what they haven't seen, and we must be patient." Lyra's patterns flickered thoughtfully. "Patience is something I have learned well. Perhaps you can help me teach others patience too." As they worked together, their bond grew stronger. Ethan realized that Lyra's cautiousness was not weakness. It was strength, shaped by years of survival. She had learned to trust only herself, yet here she was, slowly allowing him into her life. The trust she offered was rare, fragile, and precious. One evening, as they rested in the sanctuary, Lyra's senses alerted her to a distant movement. Her glowing patterns brightened, pulsing with urgency. "They are close," she said quietly. "Hunters. They have discovered a trail leading here." Ethan's pulse quickened. "How many?" "Several," she replied. "They are cautious, moving in shifts, trying to avoid detection, but they are coming. We must leave now." They packed only what they could carry and moved through a series of concealed tunnels, emerging far from the sanctuary. The colony above was quiet, the streets empty under the artificial moonlight. Yet every shadow seemed alive, every corner a potential threat. As they navigated the alleys, Ethan noticed something unexpected: a small group of colonists observing them from a distance. They did not approach, but their presence was unnerving. "They are curious," Lyra whispered. "Some are drawn to what they do not understand. But curiosity can be dangerous if discovered by the wrong people." Ethan kept his tone calm. "Then we move quickly. We cannot risk being seen too long." They continued, using rooftops and maintenance passages to stay out of sight. Ethan felt a growing respect for Lyra's knowledge of the colony. She had survived here for years, evading danger, finding hidden paths, and avoiding factions that would have destroyed her. Now he understood the depth of her resilience. After hours of careful movement, they reached a secluded area near the outskirts of the colony, a place where few ventured. Lyra's glowing patterns dimmed as she finally allowed herself to relax slightly. "We are safe, at least for now," she said, breathing a small sigh of relief. Ethan looked at her, seeing the tension still present in her posture. "They won't stop," he said, "but we'll keep moving, keep hiding, and keep fighting when necessary. We will survive this together." Lyra's eyes softened. "You are human," she said, almost in wonder. "And yet you understand more than most. Perhaps this is why I allowed you into my life. Perhaps you are different." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe. Or maybe we just need each other. I cannot face what is coming alone, and I know you cannot either." The next few days were a careful balance of training, movement, and observation. Ethan and Lyra explored hidden areas, practiced evasive techniques, and tested small demonstrations of her abilities. Each time they learned something new, not just about the colony or its dangers, but about each other. Ethan began to see patterns in the colony's behavior, the subtle tensions between humans and aliens, the unspoken prejudices, and the cautious interactions that hid fear beneath civility. Lyra's presence highlighted those tensions. Some colonists ignored her, some avoided her, and some watched her with suspicion. It was a delicate balance, and one mistake could trigger chaos. Ethan realized that helping Lyra was not just about keeping her safe. It was about teaching the colony to understand, to question fear, and to see hybrids as allies rather than threats. The challenge was immense, but he felt ready to face it. One evening, as they rested in a hidden alcove, Ethan asked, Do you ever wish you could live openly, without fear, without hiding? Lyra's glowing patterns dimmed as she considered the question. Yes, she said softly, every day. But hope is dangerous. I cannot allow myself to hope too much. Yet, meeting you, maybe hope is not so dangerous anymore. Ethan nodded. Then we will find a way, step by step. Carefully, we will show them that you are not a threat. You are extraordinary. For the first time in years, Lyra allowed herself a small smile. It was tentative, but genuine. She had survived alone for so long, hiding from those who would harm her. Now she had an ally. Someone who would stand by her, learn from her, and help her navigate a world that feared her. As the night deepened, Ethan and Lyra prepared for the next phase of their plan, moving closer to the heart of the colony, gathering information, and finding others who might support them. Danger was still near, the hunters still searching, but their bond, their trust, and their determination had grown stronger. The city above was quiet, unaware that two unlikely allies were weaving a path through shadows, learning to navigate a world that did not yet understand them. Together they would face the coming challenges, relying on courage, intelligence, and trust. And as Part 3 came to a close, both Ethan and Lyra understood that the most dangerous enemies were not always visible, and that survival would require more than skill. It would require heart, hope, and the courage to confront fear itself. The colony seemed calm as Ethan and Lyra moved through the dim streets. The artificial lights cast long shadows, and the occasional hum of machinery reminded them that life continued, unaware of the danger that had been closing in for days. Ethan could feel it in the air, the tension, the unspoken fear that always lingered near Lyra. They were not alone, and they had to remain alert. We have to get closer to the council, Ethan said quietly. If we can show them that hybrids like you are not threats, maybe we can stop the hunters before they strike again. Lyra's glowing patterns flickered. That is dangerous. The council is cautious and the factions that oppose hybrids are strong. One mistake, and we could be caught. Or worse. I know, Ethan said, but staying hidden forever isn't a solution either. You deserve more than fear. You deserve to live openly with people who understand you. She looked at him, her large amethyst eyes searching his face. You make it sound so simple. It won't be simple, he admitted, but together we can make it happen. They moved carefully, avoiding main streets and heavily patrolled areas. Lyra led Ethan through narrow maintenance tunnels, and he marveled at how she knew every passage, every hidden exit. Her knowledge of the colony's secret paths was unparalleled. She moved with the confidence of someone who had survived countless dangers, but the weight of years spent hiding was visible in the subtle tension in her body. As they approached a central chamber used for council meetings, Lyra paused. This is as close as we can get without drawing attention, she whispered. We must observe and understand before we act. Ethan nodded. He crouched beside her, watching the guards and sensors. The chamber was filled with council members, humans and aliens alike, discussing matters of security and trade. Some factions voiced concerns about unknown hybrid activity, their voices sharp with fear and suspicion. Ethan could see the unease ripple through the room. They fear you, Lyra murmured. Not because of who you are, but because of what they think you might do. Fear blinds them. We'll show them the truth, Ethan said quietly. They need to see that you are not a threat. For hours, they observed from their hidden position, noting patterns of movement, communication signals, and moments when the council members' attention faltered. Ethan realized that understanding these patterns was key to approaching them safely. Lyra's abilities allowed them to sense emotional shifts in the room, subtle changes in tension that humans could easily miss. Suddenly, Lyra's patterns flared brightly. "Hunters," she whispered. "They are nearby. Someone has discovered our trail." Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. "How many?" "Several," Lyra replied. "They move cautiously, but they will find us soon if we do not act." They moved quickly, exiting the maintenance tunnels and slipping into the shadows of the streets. Ethan marveled at how Lyra blended seamlessly with the darkness. Her glowing patterns dimmed, making her nearly invisible. He followed closely, trusting her instincts. As they reached a secluded rooftop overlooking a busy square, Lyra stopped. "We cannot run forever," she said. "They will corner us eventually. We must face them, and we must be ready." Ethan looked at her, admiration and concern mixing in his gaze. "We are ready," he said. "We will face them together." The hunters appeared moments later, moving with precision and intent. Ethan recognized their uniforms, marked with symbols of the faction that had been hunting Lyra. They had expected her to be hiding, but the rooftop gave her a vantage point. Lyra's glowing patterns flared as she prepared. "Remember," she said softly, "we defend. We do not harm unless necessary. Fear can be stronger than force." Ethan nodded, understanding the wisdom in her words. They could not afford unnecessary conflict. This was not a fight for victory. It was a fight for understanding, for survival, for the right to exist. The hunters advanced cautiously, scanning the rooftops. One step too close, and Lyra reacted instinctively. Her patterns surged, creating a subtle wave of energy that knocked the hunter back without causing permanent harm. The others paused, startled. "Do not underestimate me," Lyra said, her voice calm but firm. "I do not seek conflict, but I will defend myself." Ethan stayed close, supporting her, scanning the environment, and ready to intervene if necessary. The hunters regrouped, realizing that force alone would not succeed. They began communicating quietly, coordinating their approach. Lyra and Ethan moved together, shifting positions across rooftops, using the city's structures for cover. Every movement was calculated, precise. They were not just running, they were guiding the hunters, showing them that the hybrid they feared could be understood, controlled, and respected. As the chase continued, a small crowd began to gather in the square below. Colonists, unaware of the danger, watched the unusual display of light and movement. Some whispered, some pointed, but most stayed at a safe distance, curious and cautious. "This is our chance," Ethan whispered. "If the colony sees you, if they understand what you can do without harm, they will realize the truth." Lyra's pattern shifted, reflecting her internal conflict. She had spent her life hiding, fearing exposure, fearing judgment, fearing violence. Now, the choice was clear. Continue hiding or step forward and trust that understanding could overcome fear. With a deep breath, Lyra focused her energy. Her glowing patterns expanded, casting soft light across the rooftops. The hunters paused, unsure of how to react, and the crowd below murmured in awe. Lyra's presence was radiant, powerful, yet controlled. "Look at me," she said, her voice carrying across the square. "I am not your enemy. I am like you, yet different. I seek only to live, to learn, to be part of this colony, not to harm it." The crowd watched in silence, captivated. Some stepped closer, curiosity replacing fear. The hunters hesitated, uncertain. They had expected fear and chaos, not calm and controlled power. Ethan moved beside Lyra, raising his hands to show solidarity. "She is not a threat," he said firmly. "She is a hybrid, yes, but her abilities are controlled, her intentions are peaceful. Do not let fear guide your actions." For a long moment, the square was quiet. Then slowly, some colonists began to nod, recognizing the truth in Ethan's words. The hunters, sensing that their mission was no longer clear-cut, began to retreat, unwilling to escalate further in the presence of witnesses. Lyra lowered her arms, her glowing patterns softening. She glanced at Ethan, gratitude shining in her eyes. "You were right," she whispered. "Understanding can overcome fear." Ethan smiled faintly. "It can, but only if we continue to show it." The following days were a careful balance of diplomacy and visibility. Lyra and Ethan met with council members in controlled environments, demonstrating her abilities and explaining her hybrid nature. Slowly, the colony began to accept her presence. Fear and suspicion did not vanish overnight, but understanding grew. Lyra's story inspired others, both human and alien, to reconsider prejudices and assumptions. Her courage, combined with Ethan's empathy and determination, showed the colony that cooperation and trust could achieve what fear and secrecy could not. Ethan and Lyra continued to train together, improving her control, her confidence, and her ability to influence energy safely. They explored ways to integrate her abilities into colony life, from helping with environmental control to assisting in emergencies. The colony began to see hybrids not as threats, but as valuable allies. As weeks passed, the bond between Ethan and Lyra deepened. Trust had been established through shared danger, careful planning, and mutual respect. They had faced hunters, navigated prejudice, and demonstrated courage in the face of fear. Together they had transformed not only their own lives, but the perception of an entire community. One evening, as they stood on a rooftop overlooking the city, Lyra spoke softly. "I never imagined I could live like this, openly, without constant fear. But now, with your help, perhaps there is a future where hybrids and humans can coexist." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "There is, Lyra, and we will continue to build it, step by step. You've shown everyone what courage and understanding can achieve. You've shown them that fear is not stronger than truth." Lyra smiled, her glowing patterns pulsing gently. For the first time, she felt fully seen, fully accepted, and fully capable of embracing a life she had once thought impossible. The colony had changed, the hunters had been shown the power of restraint, and a new era of cooperation and understanding began to emerge. Lyra's secret was no longer a source of fear. It was a beacon of hope. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, watching the colony below, knowing that challenges would continue to arise, but confident that together they could face anything. Trust, courage, and empathy had guided them this far, and those same qualities would guide the colony toward a future where fear did not dominate, and where understanding and cooperation could thrive. For Lyra, the life of hiding was over. For Ethan, the journey of exploration had led him to a partnership that transcended species, fear, and prejudice. Together, they had not only survived, they had changed the colony, proving that even in the darkest shadows, hope, courage, and understanding could shine brighter than any fear. The night air was calm, the city lights twinkling below. Lyra's glow reflected softly on the nearby walls, a symbol of resilience and courage. Ethan looked at her, proud of her strength and ready to face whatever the future held. The secret that had once made her run had become a source of empowerment, not just for her, but for everyone willing to see the truth. As the stars above the colony sparkled, Ethan and Lyra took a quiet moment to breathe. They had faced hunters, navigated distrust, and embraced a future where differences could be understood rather than feared. Together, they had proven that even the most extraordinary challenges could be met with courage, wisdom, and a steadfast heart. And so, with the city below and the stars above, they stepped forward into a new chapter, one of acceptance, unity, and the unyielding hope that understanding could conquer fear.